fight. It's not what I'm really wanting to focus on, even though I do believe that Brian Kelly is going to do some good things. Look, if we want to talk about football, which we can and we will, we'll spend a lot of time with that with Wilson Alexander. Here's my thing. I think Logan Diggs needs to be in Baton Rouge with the with the uncertainty of John Emery, with the offensive weapons that you have, with where you're trying to go. If you're trying to go and win a national title, yeah. If there's any other back in the country that said that he would want to come to LSU, who, by the way, had 1,000 yards from scrimmage a year ago with a rotating backfield, yeah, I think Logan Diggs can play. And not only do I think that Logan Diggs can play, I also believe that maybe there's a potential where he's one or two behind Noah Cain, behind Josh Williams, and you might rotate some older backs in that backfield. He's going to get his reps. Guys, last year, he did not get a lot of touches, but when he did, like I said, he had 1,000 yards from scrimmage a year ago. 10 catches, 211 yards, multiple touchdowns. Guys, he's averaging 20 yards per catch. Knows Brian Kelly's system. What Brian Kelly wants to do. I think it's a massive addition if you go and get Logan Diggs. Keon Coleman's a guy that's going to Florida State, allegedly, this weekend. Let's see what happens with Keon Coleman. But there's another young man that we have not mentioned on the show yet, and his name is Trey Atmos from UL. He's a corner. And literally every Power 5 team in the country, damn near, has offered Trey Atmos to be a part of their program. I feel good there too. So, if I feel good for Logan Diggs and I feel good for Trey Atmos, what does that say about LSU's depth coming in? What does that say about LSU as a team and a whole? LSU's third running back, potentially, if you were to add Logan Diggs, had 1,000 yards and 1,000-yard season at Notre Dame a year ago. If Trey Atmos were to come from ULL to Baton Rouge, you mean to tell me that you have a potential of Denver Harris, a 5-star corner, having to be a rotational piece, potentially? Maybe Zy Alexander. Talk to anybody in that building. Zy is doing some good things. He had a pick during the spring season that made everybody ooh and ah, and their jaws hit the ground. When you add and have quality depth like LSU is potentially trying to do here in football, guys, it's only getting brighter here. And I think Brian Kelly knows what he's doing. The kid RJ Moton or whatever his name was, a lot of people said that, they liked their LSU's chances. I try to hint at this Monday. LSU was not even remotely in the race. They might have gotten a visit, but he was always going to Florida. Maybe LSU can use the safety, but I don't think that there's a safety potentially out there right now that they can go and get. So now you get Trey Atmos. Maybe you move a very talented freshman like Javian Taviano and start getting them some of those safety reps. I think that that's a big deal. So as we look at the Portal King, or one of the Portal Kings on campus, and Brian Kelly, I think he trends in a really good place for Logan Diggs and Trey Atmos. Let's see what happens there. Maybe they want to choose somewhere else, because Trey Atmos has literally gotten 45 offers in a day and a half. That's how good he has been. We'll continue to follow that. But like I mentioned, not only did I say the Portal King, but now we need to talk about the Portal Queen. Pooh Bear, you know what my favorite song is? Tomorrow. I feel really good about Anisha Morrow. Let me say that if Kim Mulkey is able to pull off getting the top 2 players in the portal after winning a national championship. She's already got Haley Van Lith, and if you're able to get Anisha Morrow, who averaged 25 points a season ago, 12.2 rebounds, 2 assists, a 6'1" forward who is really, really good and special. I have to agree with my good buddy and Matt Trent, who could beat them. Now, you may be asking yourself the question, wasn't Morrow supposed to be visiting South Carolina this weekend? The question to that, or the answer to that question is yes. Until today, when you started hearing some rumblings, some people believe that that visit might not even happen. Now you have 2 juggernauts in the same conference with Dawn Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks that we just mentioned, and your LSU Tigers, who now are really going to be battling back to back. If Kim gets Morrow, and she already has Van Lith, I just don't, I feel so good where they sit, because not only do they have what would maybe be considered a big 4, maybe, but the depth that they have, some of the girls that would come off the bench could go anywhere else and potentially just be outright stars and starters. Anisha Morrow could go to South Carolina and start. She's going to start. But LSU has so many weapons. Showed in the national championship game with how many threes that they were hitting. I've said this before, and I will say it again. Has LSU women's basketball taken over as the team, the face of women's basketball? Has Kim Mulkey in 2 seasons changed the face of women's basketball? You know, look, Dawn Staley has been a pinnacle face and figure there. So has Gino Auriemma, the great Pat Summitt, the great and late Pat Summitt, rest in peace. Is Kim Mulkey and LSU now the face of that? I do believe that you have to ask yourself the serious question, is it not LSU? I know Gino has 11 national titles, hadn't won any in back-to-back seasons. Is that, and pun intended, tide turning? Now, I see one of the comments in here saying that Dawn Staley ain't worth nothing. I vehemently disagree with you there when it comes to teams being very good. She's a really good coach, and her team's going to be really good. And there is, you know, if the visit does actually happen, which kind of looks a little thin, and to be on thin ice with Morrow going there this weekend, there's a potential that you have to play her as well. I will wrap it all with this. I'm old enough to remember. Now, before you say, well, Blake, these are national things, I'm with you. I get it. I'm also old enough to remember when everybody and their mama, not everybody, let me not say everybody. I'm old enough to remember when a lot of people around this area were saying LSU was behind in NIL. See, the thing that we didn't talk about with name, image, and likeness was the simple nature that when you put that brand on, when those 3 little letters go across your chest and you do the John Cena, you can't see me, and you point to a ring, you point to your ring finger, things like getting a brand new $65,000 Mercedes happens. LSU, in my opinion, and I know we got ripped alive for it. 30,000 views later, 1,000 comments later, you rip me alive for this, some of you. It is of my professional and personal opinion that the new face, if tomorrow happens, get the pun, that there's a new face in women's college basketball.